And welcome back to a Standards Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono. My co-host, Chris, is the one traveling this week as well as next week. So I got you guys for the Waiver Wire episode, Thursday night preview, Saturday morning Cup of Joe weekend preview, as well as all the shorts that I'm going to be releasing this week for you guys. So don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification button so you get all the drops as I release them. On top of the fact, don't forget to leave a comment if you have any questions about your lineups, your starts and sits, and any trade opportunities that you may have in your league, so we can get a one-up on your league mates so you can get to that championship and bring home the trophy. That being said, this is the Waiver Wire Week 6 episode. We're going to be going over some players that I like this week on the waivers that you can either put a bid in for if you have a fab, or hope to snag them if you have the priority style waivers. That being said, we'll get into it right now. I'm going to start with a running back here that is on a team that he's 51% owned already, and normally I like to stay around the 40% and lower range here for ownership when we talk about waivers. However, I think this is a good note because there have been some big injuries. And before I get into those into that player, let's talk about those injuries. Justin Jefferson, hamstring injury. There's a chance he doesn't play this week, and it could linger on for multiple games. So KJ Osborn is somebody that we want to look for. Again, he is way more owned, and to be exact, in sleeper leagues, he is, I'm going to pick it up for you right now. He is 16% rostered. So to me, that's one guy you got to get on your team. We'll talk about him briefly. You also have Khalil Herbert, running back for the Bears, with an ankle sprain. He's going to be out multiple weeks. Travis Kelce also has an ankle sprain. That is unsure. He was able to get back in the game, score a touchdown. Keep an eye on the practice reports. He did not practice today, and that's as of October 9th on Monday. And at 8:50, we saw the report that he did not practice. One of the other ones, too, is James Conner, had a knee injury, and that one looked like it was a little bit more serious. He was able to walk around on it. He did go back, but never came back into the game. So there's a chance he's going to be out. So we're going to talk about his replacement options here and there. So let's jump into the first one I want to talk about, and that's Roschon Johnson. Khalil Herbert has that ankle sprain, which could be multiple week absence. And if that's the case, this is the next man up. This is the guy that they drafted. He was the guy behind Bijan in Texas and didn't get the draft capital he deserves for his athleticism and his ability to catch the ball also out the backfield like Bijan did. Now, Roschon does have a concussion. He was taken out of the game on Thursday early, and he is never returned. He is in concussion protocol currently. So because they had a Thursday night game, there's a chance he can make it in for this week 6, which is why he's on this list. However, if he's not, he still should be owned because, like I said, Herbert's going to be out multiple weeks. If Roschon doesn't go, Deontay Foreman could be the guy that they call in to suit up because he was the third guy behind Roschon there and who has been inactive the past couple games and probably most comfortable with the offense. So keep an eye out for him as well. I am not jumping on him right away because Roschon is going to come back off the concussion. On average, it's about a game and a half, depending upon if you look at the metrics for people missing on concussions in the past year and this year so far. So go get Roschon Johnson if you are in one of the leagues that of the 49% he is not owned. Let's move on to Justice Hill, another running back for the Baltimore Ravens. He's 33% owned in sleeper leagues right now. He had 56% of the snaps this past weekend. It did only net him 7 carries for 32 yards and a touchdown, and he was involved in the passing game a little bit. That offense was a little anemic to me because they should have done much better against Pittsburgh. However, divisional rival, it always gets ugly. It's low scoring. But that being said, Pittsburgh's been giving up a ton of yardage to running backs, and it was not the case for the running backs here and Lamar Jackson himself. However, Justice Hill seems to be the guy that's benefiting the most getting into the end zone, benefiting out of the passing game the most. So if you're going to own a guy off the Ravens backfield, it looks like they're going to be splitting. And if it's splitting 50-50 or 60-40, like it almost was for Justice Hill, I would like to have Hill in that case. I wouldn't spend that much fab on him because, again, Lamar Jackson is going to be the RB1 for that team. But it is nice, especially when you have the likes of Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, and Jalen Warren on bye this week, because this week, week 6, Green Bay and Pittsburgh are your bye week teams. Luckily, it's only 2 teams. It only gets worse from here until I believe, week 14. It's only 2 teams as well. The last running back I have on my list here is Emari Demercado, the guy who did come in for James Conner after he left. Now, this is a little tricky because they did just sign Tony Jones to the practice squad, possible roster. They could bump him up. I am unsure I'm sure he's going to get the first dibs in there, but I don't know if the reason he got the first dibs this past week is by default. So I will say he is only 2% rostered in leagues, and that 2% is probably because people quick grabbed him last week, or it's a rookie draft league or anything of that sort where the low ownership's just because of either blind luck or people have a rolling waivers that include Sunday night. He did have 10 carries, 45 yards, and a touchdown, so he was pretty good once he got the ball in his hands. He was included in the passing game. I think he had 3 targets, 1 reception. Nothing electric out of there. Not your normal James Conner type of receptions. But he is a guy that if you are the Conner owner, you can get him. Or if you want to block the Conner owner in your league, you can go get him as well, because we don't know the severity of the knee injury for James Conner yet. It could be multiple week absence. Who knows? It could be an IR stint if there is a sprain to an MCL, if there's any sort of damage in any way. Hopefully, for the case of James Conner, love the guy, love watching him play. I hope he's not injured, but we got to be prepared in the scenarios here. Tyjae Spears is actually our last running back I want to talk about. I'm stand corrected. Tyjae Spears, 36% rostered in sleeper leagues. He has been in the past, I believe, 3 games, was taking snap counts of 52% to 56%. So he's over the 50% range in snap count for the Tennessee Titans. That doesn't mean he's got more snaps than Derrick Henry because they've been on the field together a bunch of times too, but it does mean they are using him more and more. The thing I like about him is his yards per carry were fantastic. He looked electric with the ball in his hands. Last game, he went 7 for 34 and a touchdown. He also catches balls out the backfield, which is huge. He had 5 targets, 4 catches for 35 yards. He had a total of 70 yards and a touchdown. That's what you want from your flex play there. He's going to be a perfect flex play, and if those snap percentages go up, you can get an opportunity to get a guy that could be a RB2 on a bye week, but at least a flex play for you. Let's move on to wide receivers. We talked about KJ Osborn. Let's jump into him for a second. He's only 6% or 16% owned in sleeper leagues. He is on the field for anywhere from 83 to 97% of the snaps. Jordan Addison definitely looks like the better receiver there and should be the wide receiver 2, but KJ Osborn has been playing the wide receiver 2 for most of the time. I guess maybe they like him in the run blocking. Maybe he has earned the respect of Kirk Cousins and the coaching staff there, but he has been dropping a lot of balls. He is a thicker wide receiver at 5'11", 203, but to me, he had 9 targets last game, only 5 receptions. He had alligator hands on 1 in the end zone where he kind of ducked on the ball. It should have been caught by him. A couple other hit him square in the chest. He only had 49 yards. His yards per catch is pretty low, except for obviously week 3 where he caught 1 ball for 36 yards. But his yards per target did go up the past 2 weeks. That's promising. But to me, Addison's the guy you want to own here if Addison's still available in your leagues. But if he's not, KJ Osborn is a guy to go to, because if Justin Jefferson misses 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it may be, KJ Osborn's going to get targeted. It's just a numbers game at that point. When you have a team like Minnesota that's going to throw the ball 40 to 50 times like they are, except for that weird odd week 4, 40, 50 times they are, he's going to have to get some of those targets. So I like him. If Justin Jefferson is out for sure, go grab him. If you have a person you could drop on your team, stash him, see if he's there. And he's a great flex, if not a wide receiver 2 option, depending upon how he gets targeted. And the thing to me, I feel comfortable in the flex with him. If you're riding him as your wide receiver 2, you either have injuries, you either have Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs or George Pickens or a combo of them out, you definitely got to go get KJ Osborn. They are playing Chicago, and we know Chicago did pretty decent this past game. However, Chicago is still the Chicago Bears. They're not a perfect defense, and they are susceptible to giving up the pass and points. So go get KJ Osborn if you are one of the ones where he is not owned in your league. Darnell Mooney from the Chicago side. Let's talk about the opposite side of the ball. He's not the pseudo number 2 pass catcher there. Cole Kmet is that job. You have got DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney. But Darnell Mooney is the wide receiver 2 on this team. And Darnell Mooney has only 32% roster in leagues. He's had 4 targets in the past 2 games. Last game, he unfortunately didn't catch anything. But the reason I want to put Darnell Mooney on this list, and he may not be on the list of many other people when we talk about waiver acquisitions, is look at what the Chicago Bears have done the past 2 weeks. Look at what Justin Fields has done the past 2 weeks. Justin Fields has gone out and had 4 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks. He's had over 280 yards in the past 2 weeks. And we're not even talking about massive yards on the ground either by him. He is trusting his pass catchers. And let's not forget, one of the bigger plays in the game last week that got missed was a deep ball to Darnell Mooney that was just out of reach, and it's going to be there. It's going to connect, and you want to be the owner of Mooney when it starts to connect. At least have Darnell Mooney, have him blow up, package him in a trade deal, trade him for a small piece if you need a running back 2 or anything like that, or you want to swap a wide receiver or need a tight end that you can stream. But you can package him in a place and get yourself a little bit more value, because I think the Chicago Bears offense, at least this week, but I can see when you look at their lineup that they're going to have big weeks coming ahead. So when you look at the Chicago Bears opponents coming up, Minnesota, that's going to be one. Vegas, that's going to be one. Chargers could be a shootout there. New Orleans is a stingy defense. Carolina can be a stingy defense. Then you got Detroit they could be chasing points against. They play Minnesota again, and they don't have a bye until week 13. So he can be a guy that you can pop into your flex if it starts to heat up for him there. And like I said, 4 targets last week. He had 4 targets last week, 4 targets against Denver with 4 catches and 51 yards with an average of 12 yards per target. He's a downfield threat, and I like that. So if Darnell Mooney is available, because he should be available in 68% of leagues, you can put a little bit of money on him or possibly even pick him up for free as he's a free agent and stash him on your team and see what you get out of him, because I like the opportunities he's going to have in some of the opponents, especially the way Justin Fields is playing football. Let's talk about another guy that I like as well that's starting to heat up, and that's Josh Downs for the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, it stinks. Anthony Richardson's hurt. He's going to possibly go on IR. He has a grade 3 AC joint strain, but that didn't skip a beat for Josh Downs and the pass catchers in Indianapolis, because Gardner Minshew is a serviceable quarterback in the NFL. He did it in Jacksonville. He did it a couple times for the Eagles. I expect him to be able to do it here like he showed when coming in relief for Anthony Richardson. Josh Downs has had 21 targets in the past 3 games. He's caught 16 of those targets, so high catch percentage, which is huge. He's only 26% rostered. In last game, he had almost 100 yards. He was 3 yards shy. This rookie receiver is going to be heating up, and if he has a rapport with Minshew while Richardson's out, I also like that going into when Richardson comes back. But he is a guy that I'm going to keep an eye on. And do you want to be the guy that said, I should have spent, like $2 or just picked him up when he was a free agent, week 6, like Jono said. I know he was available. I just didn't want to waste a roster spot. It's never wasting a roster spot. You're wasting a roster spot if you're sitting on a name guy or name value and hoping something comes of it, and it's week 6 and they're doing nothing for you. Get a guy who's on the rise. Get a guy who's getting a little bit hot, and you want to ride that hot hand. Because the odds of you using that last roster spot and holding that name brand that you already have in there, you're going to be wasting that, because you're not going to even put him in your lineup, because you're going to wait for him to blow up and then try and put him in your lineup, and he's going to give you a dud again. Go get Josh Downs. Stash him if you can. If he has a repeat game of 80-plus yards, he's a flex play opportunity moving forward. In terms of tight ends, I'm going to talk about one tight end. That's the tight end 8 in fantasy football right now for standard scoring, and that's Logan Thomas. If you're a streaming tight end manager, this is one you want to listen to right here. He's had 14 targets. He's had 12 receptions on those 14 targets, 118 yards, and a touchdown in the last 2 games alone. Besides Cole Kmet and some of these other and Sam Laporta and stuff like that, and your top guys, you're not going to find numbers like that, which is why he's put up into and launched in the tight end 8 spot. Go get Logan Thomas if you are a streaming tight end fantasy football manager. You want to hit the streaking tight ends when you're streaming tight ends. You don't want to hit the guys that are low and you can see them. Maybe they got 6 targets, or maybe they got 8 targets but caught 4 balls, and like, opportunity's there. There's a chance he's gonna blow up. No, get the guy that's actually streaking right now, that has a rapport with his quarterback. Sam Howell likes Logan Thomas. It's almost a little bit of a relief valve. Thomas, when healthy, is an effective tight end. We know that. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy, but you're streaming him. You're not getting him as your starting tight end week to week. Now, he can put him in there, but just know that at some point, now I think they have a week 14 bye, so you can pretty much stream him every week if you want. But you know that there's going to be down weeks because it is the Washington Commanders and it is an offense that's going to be like that. However, he is the streaking tight end right now. I could see him getting up at the end of this week into the top 6 tight ends in fantasy football because he has an opportunity to continue to build on what he's done the past 2 weeks. Go get Logan Thomas. He's only 20% owned. 80% of you out there are in a league where he's not owned yet. And you're telling me, unless you're in a 5-team league, there's a tight end somebody starting that Logan Thomas should be starting over. Just like last week, I want to talk about streaming quarterbacks because there is one quarterback, Jordan Love, that is going to be on bye this week. Obviously, Kenny Pickett's not somebody that you're looking to find a replacement for here because most of you aren't owning him or he's sitting on your bench. But Jordan Love is somebody that a lot of owners are either starting tonight right now because it's during Monday Night Football game, which I can't wait to tune into here, or they're starting him every single week as their starter because they picked up from somebody like Russell Wilson who's not doing well, or they were Aaron Rodgers owners and then picked up Love afterwards. That being said, 3 streamable quarterbacks I like, and that's based on their matchups. One is Desmond Ridder versus Washington. Washington has given up the deep ball early and often. We just saw it against Chicago. We've seen it before against Philly. They can give up the deep ball easily. They're not good in dealing with deep passes. And when you've got Drake London, you've got Kyle Pitts, you have opportunities for deep passes. They have given up 386 total offensive yards, at least 386 total offensive yards in the past 4 weeks. 2 of the weeks, they've given up 415 or more, and that was to Philly and Chicago. So past 4 weeks, they have not been able to stop the ball from moving down the field. This is where you attack a defense like this. And that's with Chase Young and their good front 4. They have not been able to get the quarterback enough. You have Atlanta having a good presence, so it's allowing Ridder to get some passes off. They showed it this past week. On top of the fact that maybe they're a little bit more stingy against the run, making Ridder have to pass the ball, kind of a situation that they were in this past week. Great. Ridder showed he can do it. He can prove he can do it. Ride the hot hand. Like I said, go streaking with Desmond Ridder. Not for real in fantasy football. Jimmy G is my second streamable quarterback here. He's playing tonight. He plays New England, a battered and beaten down team, not only on defense, but that offense is horrific. And if they have an opportunity to keep the New England offense off the field, that means Jimmy G stays on the field. So look to attack a team where the morale is down. I think this is one that I'd like to attack because you have a safer floor with Jimmy G than Ridder, but I think you have a lower ceiling with Jimmy G too as well. And the last one's going to be Bryce Young. I think this is kind of a dart throw because if you're in a 2-quarterback league, Bryce Young may be already owned, Jimmy G may be already owned, Ridder may be already owned, who knows. But if the case that Bryce Young's available in 1-quarterback leagues and a bunch of your teammates and league mates have 2 quarterbacks on their roster, Bryce Young is playing against Miami. Miami has given up 20 points to 48 points so far this year. The only times they have given up anything less than that points-wise is just to New England and the New York Giants. And I already told you about how bad New England's offense has been. The Giants have been worse because some of those points weren't even given up by the offense. They were given up by their own offense. So look to attack the Miami team, who's going to probably get up ahead on Carolina, whose defense is pretty decent too. But look to get up on Carolina, and Bryce Young is going to have to throw the ball, and they have to play some catch-up football here. You like that, especially when Adam Thielen's rolling, DJ Chark is rolling. The other receivers, such as Terrace Marshall and Jonathan Mingo, are starting to heat up a little bit too as well, and the running game is just not working for Carolina. Bryce Young is going to make less and less mistakes, less and less interceptions and fumbles. Here's a time to take advantage of him. If you're a Jordan Love owner, or if you want to stash him because you got somebody coming up in one of your buys and you want to grab him now before he goes. But this week against Miami, I think he has a successful week too again, and builds on his 20+ point performance in a 6 touchdown point league. So that is your Waiver Wire Week 6 episode here. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification button so you see the Thursday night football matchup that comes out, the shorts that I'm going to be putting out here, as well as the big Saturday morning full slate preview where I will have a guest host here with me breaking down each games with starts, sits, and sleepers. As always, thanks for tuning in. See you next time.